Perfect. Welcome. Good morning, everyone. So happy to have you here. My name is Cassandra Shavney. I am the Apprenticeship Program Specialist with Philadelphia Works. Philadelphia Works is the workforce board for Philadelphia County, and we're also proud to help convene ApprenticeshipPHL, which is a regional collaborative that I'll get into a little bit later. But we're really happy to have you here today for our first quarterly webinar. Some of you may have been introduced to us at our ApprenticeshipPHL symposium that we hosted over the first 2 weeks of February. So glad to have you back then. Happy to have you back with us today. And just a little bit more about what is ApprenticeshipPHL, what do we do? So we are a regional public-private collaborative with the overall goal of increasing and aligning registered apprenticeships with pre-apprenticeship programs for the benefit of our area's residents and employers. While we're called ApprenticeshipPHL, we are that regional collaborative encompassing southeastern Pennsylvania. So here you see a list of our 20 advisory board members. Tara Lowe seems very surprised by the list. We are happy and proud to be growing. We are a wonderful group, and please reach out to us if you're interested in joining this group of folks. But we are all organizations who are invested in the apprenticeship model and enhancing and growing apprenticeships in our region. And just some of the buckets of work that we do, we support outreach, education, and awareness events. So events like this webinar and like our symposium. We help organizations with their apprenticeship registration paperwork and process. We'll connect them with the Apprenticeship and Training Office. We provide technical assistance to programs as they're starting up and after they've been an established program. With that, ApprenticeshipPHL helps to pursue funding opportunities for apprenticeships in our region. And we generally foster regional partnerships between apprenticeship program partners and other interested organizations. We do have a Doodle sign-up poll available if you'd like to meet with ApprenticeshipPHL to chat with us one-on-one. We'll put that link into the chat. We also have a number of social media pages and a website where you can follow us. I'll be live tweeting today's event, and I live tweet most events that we do, and also promote apprenticeship resources and information on our social media pages. So encourage you to follow us there. And just generally, thank you for joining us today. I am happy to mute and turn my camera off and turn it over to the Apprenticeship and Training Office's director, Ms. Tara Lowe, who will introduce her office, what they do, talk to you about their resources, their staff, and really just how they work to promote and support apprenticeships in Pennsylvania. So Ms. Tara Lowe, happy to stop my share and turn it over to you.
Thank you, as always. Okay, bear with me, everyone. Okay, let me just move you around on the screen. Okay, can I just say that this region is extremely lucky to have a group like ApprenticeshipPHL and to have all of these individuals supporting the work that you're doing. So we are so glad to be here to be able to talk about the role of the Apprenticeship and Training Office and talk about how we can support all of you as well as support the Apprenticeship PHL team. So just give me a second. I'm sorry, I'm experiencing a little bit of a delay. Okay, there you go. So let me just take a second to introduce myself, and then my wonderful and appreciated colleagues and other Apprenticeship and Training Office team members will have a chance to introduce themselves in a little bit as well when we kind of get into the bulk of our content. So my name is Tara Lowe. I am the director of the Apprenticeship and Training Office for the Pennsylvania Department of Labor and Industry. I started this position in November 2020. I have experience and frankly, a passion for workforce program development, mostly targeting underrepresented populations and building partnerships for collective impact. Most recently, prior to this position, I served as the Director of Operations at PA CareerLink Lancaster County. I saw some PA CareerLink Lancaster people on this call, so that's wonderful. There, I worked closely with our instructor team. I helped grow youth programming, and I led the development of the Reentry Services Department, one of the only of its kind located within PA CareerLink. I also have prior experience in the nonprofit sector, as well as an educator in what feels like a different life at this point. So before I go on, I want to, again, take a second to say thank you. Thank you to Cassandra, thank you to Maria, thank you to ApprenticeshipPHL for having us here, for everything that you do. And really, thank you to all of you. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for your commitment to developing your workforce and for continuing to be champions of apprenticeship. If you are here, you are most certainly a champion of apprenticeship. And finally, for pushing through a very hard year, stronger than ever. I truly believe that apprenticeship is a key to the long-term economic recovery for businesses and job seekers. After all, we know apprenticeship is a way for businesses to build that skilled workforce that they are in such desperate need for, and allow job seekers to earn while they learn and grow in their career. Furthermore, a key to continuing to move forward with apprenticeship is what all of you are doing, and that includes working as navigators of apprenticeship, advocating for apprenticeship, building new programs, maintaining and enhancing existing programs, and ultimately growing apprenticeship in your local area. Rightfully so, there continues to be a concentration on apprenticeship from our state and from our federal government. And we're very appreciative of that support and continued belief in the apprenticeship model. We'll talk a little bit more about some of the different funding opportunities coming down the pike and what that kind of continued support from the state and federal administration looks like. So before I go on, and before I really talk about the Apprenticeship and Training Office's goals and kind of how we provide service, I want to take a second, and this may be review for some of you, but I wanted to remind the group that Pennsylvania is a state apprenticeship agency. And what that means is the Apprenticeship and Training Office acts on behalf of the federal office, and we essentially have the responsibility and accountability to oversee all apprenticeship programs, apprenticeship registration, and agreements across the state. We certainly accept and support the federal standards of apprenticeship, but we take it a step farther. So we in Pennsylvania have our own set of apprenticeship standards and a registration process, including our own paperwork specific to the Commonwealth. Again, the Apprenticeship and Training Office is charged with overseeing that entire registration process and all related documents. And in order to do that successfully, we really must ensure that the local areas have the support and resources that they need to align with our Pennsylvania specific standards, to align with Pennsylvania's best practices, and ensure that all of you and groups like ApprenticeshipPHL can successfully register their program within the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So in addition to the support that we do as the Apprenticeship and Training Office, we also have within the Commonwealth a State Apprenticeship and Training Council. And that group acts as the approving agency of all registration within the Commonwealth. That group is made up of 11 voting members and 5 ex officio non-voting members. And we'll hit on this a little bit more in a second, but essentially our group, our staff, as well as ApprenticeshipPHL will meet you where you're at, whether you're hopefully creating a new program or have an existing program. We'll help you build that, we'll help you fill out the registration paperwork, we'll help you prepare, you then will present in front of council, and then we continue to, once approved, we continue to support your efforts, help you launch, maintain, and enhance. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. So the Apprenticeship and Training Office has a number of goals. We have some short-term goals, and then we have our overarching goals. And I think this is important to be able to understand what we do and how we do it. So one of our first overarching goals is we want to increase the number of registered apprenticeship opportunities in Pennsylvania. And really, we don't want to just increase the number, but we want to actually expand the depth of apprenticeship within the Commonwealth. So what that means is that we really would like to expand apprenticeship into non-traditional occupations and serve underrepresented populations. And you'll see when we speak a little bit more about the funding opportunities, a lot of the funding that we have coming down the pike are concentrating on non-traditional occupations as well as reimbursements for underserved populations entering apprenticeship. We want to expand awareness about the benefits of registered apprenticeship and how to access them. And that really comes in the form of presentations oftentimes. So we have, I'm not going to go into it today, mostly because of time and also because I think this group has a pretty good base knowledge for what apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship is, but we have a number of different presentations we can offer, including Apprenticeship 101, Pre-Apprenticeship 101. We can come and talk about specific topics, specific programs as well. As always, Apprenticeship PHL can reach out to us and work with us to do that, or you can reach out directly. We want to advocate for apprenticeship as the premier solution to meeting workforce needs. And if you know the benefits of apprenticeship, I think you understand that makes a lot of sense and shouldn't be that difficult. And finally, we want to provide programs the support and resources needed to align with Pennsylvania standards and practices, and not just provide programs, but provide regional experts of apprenticeship and regional groups like Apprenticeship PHL. So in order to reach those goals, we offer services and provide technical assistance in a variety of ways. So the first service we offer is just basic technical assistance. And we can provide that service directly, or we can work alongside groups taking local and regional approaches, much like Apprenticeship PHL, to farther enhance the level of support being offered. That technical assistance, which I believe Jim is going to speak a little bit more to in a second, really can look like assisting sponsors during every step of the building and registering process, as well as helping sponsors launch, maintain, and farther enhance their program. And that could look like offering continued capacity building. We offer strategic planning and ecosystem building. So that really includes helping local areas create strategic plans and establishing a regional approach to growing apprenticeship. And that really looks like what Apprenticeship PHL is doing. We can meet groups wherever they're at in this process. We can help plan and facilitate meetings among partners. We can bring full groups together. We can bring in other regional groups to act as best practices. Another main service is knowledge dissemination, education, and advocacy. This includes the creation and distribution of knowledge products specific to the Pennsylvania process, best practice sharing, and continuous advocacy in the form of formal support, presentation, and even representation from our office at different activities. The sharing of best practices is extremely important, especially in light of some of the changes that a lot of our programs have had to take place. We want to ensure individuals aren't recreating the wheel. A lot of programs had to, like many of us, scramble to have their services online. And if someone's doing that well, we want to make sure that we're sharing that wealth and sharing that information out with other programs or prospective programs. Another service is connecting parties to funding opportunities. And we will talk a little bit more about that. So essentially, we want to provide access and information related to federal and state funding opportunities available to support apprenticeship as well as pre-apprenticeship. And finally, we provide local and regional support. So the Apprenticeship and Training Office supports local areas as they potentially do all of the above efforts that I just discussed. You really have the privilege of having a robust regional apprenticeship system and support through Apprenticeship PHL. For our office and for all of you, this is best case scenario. As it extends our reach, it helps us reach our goals for apprenticeship in the Commonwealth. And for you, this gives you local added support of a team that knows your local needs extremely well and knows apprenticeship. So the apprenticeship and training representatives, those are team members in our office, remain the main providers of technical assistance. And they provide technical assistance directly to program sponsors or can support, again, apprenticeship navigators and various other apprenticeship experts if they work with local and regional teams. ATR service regions are broken down currently by West, North Central, you'll see West in blue, North Central in green here, and Southeast regions of the state. Eventually, we're going to have apprenticeship and training representatives representing each one of these regions. Right now, we have Mr. Jim Reese, who really for the past year plus has represented the entire state. And we recently brought on a new apprenticeship and training representative who I will have the pleasure of introducing you to in a few seconds. I will say that I have also redirected some of these lines for the different service regions. What I saw was that some of the service regions were actually breaking down workforce development areas in half. And we really want to ensure that the work we're doing aligns with the workforce development areas. I have readjusted these lines a little bit. If you've seen something like this prior, this may look slightly different. So again, our apprenticeship and training representatives really remain the main provider of technical assistance. They help in every point of the process of building an apprenticeship program and maintaining an apprenticeship program. We will work with the local areas and meet them where they're at and be that added layer of support to an apprenticeship PHL in working directly with you. I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Jim Reese, who is our very much appreciated and valued apprenticeship and training representative, as well trainer extraordinaire for the Apprenticeship and Training Office. And he's going to talk a little bit about how he works with programs along their kind of journey to apprenticeship.
Thank you very much, Tara. This is basically my job. Okay, this fits for whether you're doing a registered apprenticeship program and also a pre-apprenticeship. The first step is to explore and assess, and that's where you might need our help to see if apprenticeship will actually fit for your company. The next step is to partner and build. We can facilitate meetings with you, set you up with some partners in your area. I will tell you that if you're doing a registered apprenticeship program, I will mention pre-apprenticeship at this time because I want to get it in your thoughts on that way you can have future talent for your business. Register and present for approval. I will assist you with all the paperwork. I will help you prepare for the council meeting and help you with anything else with the register and presenting. After you get approved on launch, I am going to be training you on how to use the federal database, Rapids. We're going to go over your program. I'm going to give you training on the entire Rapids system. Then I'm going to help you maintain. That's where the tech support comes in. Any issues you have, I will be there to. Sorry, my dog likes to talk over me at times. But I will provide tech support for your program. And then enhance. I tell every sponsor after about 3 years you should look to update your program. I can assist you with that also. Um, and anything else you might need, building capacity for your program. So we're basically available for anything you need during your whole entire journey through registered apprenticeships. And I'm going to turn it back over to Taryn. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate that as always. So you got to see him in the flesh. You got to see Jim Reese in the flesh, but here's a nice picture of him. Although he has been covering the whole state and doing a fabulous job, Jim prior represented the Western region. We also will be hiring a North Central region apprenticeship and training representative, and that position hopefully will be posted very, very soon. And we most recently had our Southeastern apprenticeship and training representative start. I believe he started last Monday. So I want to take the opportunity to introduce all of you to Mr. Joseph Bass. Joe, if you're on the call, I'd love for you to say a few words if you're willing. Joe, you might be on mute.
Am I coming through now?
You are good, sir.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I'm glad to be a part of the team and glad to meet each of you. I'm the newest member of the team, just started last Monday. I have 10 plus years experience in workforce development, working as a case manager, business services rep, as well as a program manager in WIA and WIOA. So I'm just glad to meet each of you and be a part of the team and excited about the potential. Thanks.
Thank you, Joe. We are so excited to have him on board. Joe will actually be the representative working with the Philadelphia region. We asked that you give him a little bit of time. He's really still in that training period right now, kind of learning everything apprenticeship across the Commonwealth. So very soon though, I would imagine you will be having some interactions with him, and again, are very happy to have him a part of the team. So I've found that when I speak to the work that the ATO is doing and some of our goals for 2021 and 2022, 4 concepts kept reoccurring. So I wanted to kind of formalize those concepts and share them. And the first 2 are really intentionality and strategy. And I'm sure the team is sick of me saying this, but you will hear this in a lot of what we do. Everything we're doing moving forward really needs to be strategic and intentional. The third concept or word is support. So we want to be able to offer the best possible support to all of you, whether you're building new programs, maintaining current programs, assisting in building programs, just general growing the apprenticeship ecosystem. And we also want to be able to work together and support each other, because we are covering the entire Commonwealth, which is no easy feat with a pretty small team. And the last concept is reinforcing our foundation. And reinforcing, by definition, means to strengthen or support, especially with additional material. So as you will see as I kind of go through the next few slides, our 2021 goals and a lot of the work that we've done for the past 6 months, there is a lot of enhancement of what is already there, as well as building new to support program sponsors, apprentices, and the general public. So I want to take a few seconds to talk about what we've done and what we're planning to do moving forward, because I think the team has done a great job of doing a whole lot in a small amount of time. And I think we have some really great plans and goals for the future that only will help all of you. So Number one, and hopefully a lot of you have already experienced this, we have enhanced and made more user-friendly our standard acceptance and registration process. So what that includes is we've developed all new registration documents. We've made them fillable PDF forms. We've made one version to be inclusive of all program types. Prior, we had multiple versions for different programs. At this point, everything can go into one inclusive version of that registration paperwork. We have a full registration packet that can be sent out instead of just all of the individual documents. But we also do have those individual documents if someone needs an Appendix A or Appendix B. And we've also revamped the wage scale, and that wage scale is now based on a minimum journey worker entry wage. Prior for our registration paperwork, we were asking for you to calculate an average journey worker registration wage. And we found that this process is a little bit easier, and it actually also does coincide with what you're asked to enter into the federal database. I believe many of you are familiar with the registration paperwork, and this is not going to be a presentation where we go over all of the paperwork and how to fill it out. But just quickly, I wanted to outline what that entails. So that's the standards of registered apprenticeship. And that is essentially the written plan outlining all the terms and conditions for recruitment, selection, employment, training, and supervision of apprentices. Appendix A, so that is essentially a document that contains the details of the program's specific training plan. This includes the work process schedule, and that work process schedule specifies the competencies that an apprentice will learn during on-the-job training. Appendix B is the apprentice agreement. That is not something that you ask that we ask that is sent back into our office. It's something that you hold for your records, and then you use that to drive the information you enter into Rapids. Maria, I'm okay with time, right?
Hey, Tara, you are doing fabulous with time, but we do have one question in the chat. So when you're done with this slide, we can come back to that.
Great, great, great. Thank you. Appendix C, that's actually a tool that we created. It's an affirmative action plan template. This does not need to be filled out by all programs right off the bat. However, if you have a program where you know you're going to serve more than 5 individuals, we would ask that you complete that. And we wanted to create a tool that will assist you in those efforts, along with Appendix D, which is a qualification and selection procedure tool. Again, that's not a required document for every program, but for those that are planning on serving 5 or more, we would ask that that's filled out. Appendix E is the employer acceptance agreement. That would be for group programs, and that's what they use to basically monitor and have employers who are joining the program fill out. Appendix F is something that we ask that all programs attach, and we just ask that you label it as Appendix F, and that would be a safety plan. There's a high concentration on safety in apprenticeship. And Appendix G, that's a very, very new document. That is a program summary, and we are really looking at that as a chance for new programs to answer some strategic questions and sell their program to the council. So the council receives all of these documents ahead of time, but that Appendix G is certainly something that the council concentrates on and reviews prior. During the council process, we also ask that you come prepared with a 2-minute elevator speech and are prepared to answer questions that the council might ask. And go ahead, Maria.
Great, Tara. So I will say in the chat, Joe is getting a great deal of love. I think he will need a welcome tour once he's there. But we also have a quick question from Howard around big picture. What are the necessary components needed to have in place to start a new apprenticeship?
Sure. So, you know what? That's a great question. Can we, and Howard, you said that came from Howard?
Yep.
Okay. So Howard, let's revisit that at the end of the presentation, and we can we talk about 5 key components to apprenticeship, and that's often included in our Apprenticeship 101. So we can revisit this at the end of the conversation. Just briefly, I'd love to turn that over to my team to kind of go over. We can also do an Apprenticeship 101 with you or any other groups that might be interested, or we can have an offline conversation. So let's just, someone help me remember to revisit that question at the end. That's a great question.
It's in the parking lot.
Perfect, thank you. So I apologize because these are screenshots. I was having trouble really sharing the actual document in this format. But this is going to show you some of what that registration paperwork looks like. Again, if you've never looked at this before, it may not seem that impressive, but if you've looked at the registration paperwork prior, I think you're going to be very pleasantly pleased with how it really is inclusive and how much more, in my opinion, user-friendly is. So you can see that this is the standards, and there are just easy drop downs for some areas or easily indicated areas for you to fill out. Again, this is an example of Appendix A. There's check boxes for your different program model, drop downs where we could make there be drop downs, and other fillable areas. You can see a quick example of the wage process schedule there. Again, I think if you've seen this paperwork before, you'd be very pleasantly pleased with some of the enhancements that we've made. So our second kind of level of enhancement and goal for the future is enhancing our digital footprint and web presence. We really, and what this looks like is reconfiguring our pages on labor and industry as well as PA CareerLink websites. So we really want, especially our PA CareerLink apprenticeship website, to be the landing page for all things registered apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship. We want to create easier access to a public-facing list of all programs, which you can always reach out to us to get. We want to create an easy way to access all of the resources that I'm going to briefly mention, all of the resources that already exist. We want to highlight best practices, highlight the work that Apprenticeship PHL is doing, highlight the work that all of you are doing. And we're going to have that all live on our PA CareerLink apprenticeship page, as well as the PA Department of Labor and Industry page. Those things are in the works. I believe they're about 4 weeks out. So I would encourage all of you to just take a look at what it looks like now. And then I think when you see the enhancements, you're going to be very, very happy with some of the work that we're doing and basically the support that we're able to offer you. The third goal and enhancement is the development of knowledge products. And this for me is extremely important. You know, there are some great federal resources out there, but I quickly discovered that we really didn't have a lot Pennsylvania specific. And as you all know, Pennsylvania has its own process for registered apprenticeship. So we are going to be creating, firstly, a series of one-pagers that includes a job seeker focused one-pager. So you can use that to talk to clients or distribute to community members, family members. We're going to have a sponsor and employer focused one-pager. You can, again, use that to speak to employers' potential sponsors. We are going to have a funding guide briefly outlining some of the funding consistently available to you, as well as some of the funding that may be available through temporary grants. This document is going to be a little bit of an organic document, so we may update annually. And finally, and something that I think our team is extremely proud of, is we've created a registering a program in Pennsylvania guide for employers and sponsors, as well as a registering a pre-apprenticeship program in Pennsylvania guide for sponsors. So my disclaimer is this never takes the place of the work that a Jim or a Joe does and that one-on-one support that they really do to help you kind of build your program or assist Apprenticeship PHL as they support you as well. But this is a great tool and resource that will help you get started and that you can continue to come back to. It really is a step-by-step guide to the who, what, when, where, why of apprenticeship. It highlights the main elements of apprenticeship, Howard. It highlights how to fill out the registration paperwork. It also gives you information as far as how you launch, maintain, and farther enhance your program. And here's just a little introduction. You can see the first few pages are the benefits, the main pieces of apprenticeship. And then it does go into, in step 1, developing your apprenticeship program. Step 2, completing your registration paperwork. It really defines what each one of those documents are and when you would use them. And then it actually goes into each individual document and gives you details on each individual document. And step 3 is really going over the process with the Apprenticeship and Training Council. So it goes over the step-by-step process, how they look at programs, how they approve programs. It also highlights how you can be prepared. Again, Jim and Joe would assist you with all of this. And perhaps most importantly, it shows you how to launch, enhance, maintain, and enhance your program moving forward. Step 4. Goal 4, enhancement number 4 for the work that we're doing. I know there's a lot of CareerLink individuals on this call, so I think you're going to be very happy to see that we are going to be offering workshops and training specific for workforce development professionals. We really want to educate workforce development staff and CareerLink staff on who, what, when, where, why of apprenticeship, and we hope to do that starting probably late summer. We're going to offer a series of webinars. Those webinars will actually even show how to use the CWDS system and use WIOA dollars to support existing apprenticeships, as well as how to look at the eligible apprenticeship list housed within the ETPL. In addition to that, we're working on a desk guide to go along with this webinar training and will be referenced in the training. And that desk guide is, again, the who, what, when, where, why for you as a workforce development professional, and actually gives screenshots on using the CWDS system and using WIOA dollars to support apprenticeship. And the 5th and last goal and enhancement, but we're always doing that, so it really doesn't stop at 5, is we hope to have a full apprenticeship and training office team. Imagine that. We are extremely small right now. Consists of myself. We also are in the process of interviewing for a workforce development supervisor, and that individual will really supervise the day-to-day and offer support to all of our regional apprenticeship and training representatives, as well as offer an extra layer of support to you. We're thankful to have Joe on board. We're going to be bringing on 1 more regional apprenticeship and training rep. We will have a grants and statistical development program manager starting in July. We have a number of funding opportunities available, and that requires a great deal of organization and monitoring of sub-grantees. So very thankful to have someone to support with that. We have Miss Nukia Finley, who recently started as our clerk and basically our apprenticeship lead. Many of you may have interacted with her already. And finally, we'll be bringing on a pre-apprenticeship manager and administrative officer. And that person really serves as the main representative for everything pre-apprenticeship. They will manage that initiative as well as be direct program support for that initiative. And before I go on, James, hopefully you're still on the call, I want to take a second to introduce you to another valued member of our team and support system to discuss some of the funding that we have available and really discuss kind of his role in that funding and the support that he offers for the team. So I'm going to hand it over to Mr. James Cicero. James is a program manager for Keystone Development Partnership and has a long-standing relationship with the Apprenticeship and Training Office. He serves as a support system to us and an expert for all things apprenticeship, and has had various other roles across the span of the last 3 years. So James, can you take a few seconds to discuss the important work you're doing, especially in relation to the Apprenticeship State Expansion Funds? Please and thank you.
Sure. Hello, everyone. James Chicharo, Program Manager for the Keystone Development Partnership. I've been on contract with the ATO as their contracted representative since 2017, building, registering, and funding apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship programs statewide for all types of industries, all types of employers, training providers, and organizations. KDP is a nonprofit workforce intermediary, which has been on contract with the Apprenticeship and Training Office since 2016. I am currently serving in the capacity of grant coordinator for the Apprenticeship State Expansion Grant. The acronym is ASE. This funding makes its way to Pennsylvania via the Employment and Training Administration, the ETA. This funding is being utilized by the Pennsylvania Apprenticeship and Training Office to develop strategies to increase the registration of apprenticeship programs in non-traditional industries and the recruitment of underserved apprenticeship participants. The Keystone Development Partnership is the ATO's sub-grantee for this grant. KDP is serving as the coordinator for all initiatives and activities toward the recruitment, the outreach, and the reporting of registered apprenticeship programs in non-traditional industries, and also for underserved apprenticeship participants. KDP is also serving as the fiscal agent to process and disseminate all reimbursement requests. Some details about the award. The award is $1,500 per each underserved apprentice. The eligibility is for any underserved apprentice hired or designated as an apprentice starting on July 1st, 2019 until the grant ends on June 30th, 2022. The minimum age is 16. When I say underserved apprentices, I mean women, minorities, individuals with disabilities, physical learning and other, re-entrants, individuals with criminal backgrounds, veterans, and socioeconomically disadvantaged individuals. The two allowable costs of reimbursement by apprenticeship programs is for on-the-job training. So these funds may be used to reimburse employers for 50% of the on-the-job training wage paid to their apprentices, and also for RTI, related technical instruction. These funds may be used to reimburse employers and training providers for apprentices' tuition costs and work and textbooks. And what I mean when I said non-traditional industries, this money is for manufacturing, IT, healthcare, culinary, and other. At this point, the only exclusion that we have in terms of industry for this grant specific would be the building and construction trades. A disclaimer that I just want to mention is the grantee, by accepting this money, agrees to allow the Apprenticeship and Training Office, the Keystone Development Partnership, and projected partners to provide employer and program information and participant demographic information to the ETA. The grantee understands that this information is required in order to receive ASE funding and will only be used in accordance with the reporting requirements of the ETA. I have to fund 800 apprentices at $1,500 per, so I have $1.2 million to spend. I am on track to potentially spend half of that by this summer. This is first come, first serve money, essentially. So if you know of any registered apprenticeship program in a non-traditional industry who have non-traditional apprentices which they hired, underserved apprentices which they hired, please feel free to reach out to me via email, and we can explore the possibility of providing these funds to those apprenticeship programs. Thank you.
Thanks so much, James. So that's some of our current funding available to directly reimburse the sponsor. I will say as well, we've recently applied to the ETA for the state apprenticeship expansion funds, concentrating on equity and inclusion. And through those funds, which hopefully the performance period will start of July in this year, we actually hope to reimburse up to $5,000 of OJT or RTI costs per apprentice, again, concentrating on underserved populations and non-traditional occupations. Some additions to that would also be the possibility to spend up to $500 in supportive services per apprentice. So we do not know yet if we have those funds, but we certainly hope so, and we'll ensure to get that initiative out to all of you. Rightfully so, there continues to be a concentration on apprenticeship from the state and federal government. All of you know, I'm sure, you can use WIOA funds, you can use a series of different funds, Pell Grant, VET grants, a series of different kind of funds and supports to be able to support apprenticeship. And Governor Wolf recently introduced his Back to Work PA plan, and that plan is funded by a tax on the natural gas industry, but it specifically seeks to expand registered apprenticeship programs, concentrating on non-traditionals. In its entirety, it's estimated that that is going to distribute about $3 billion. So there's a lot of added support coming from the state coming down the pike. In addition, I'm currently working on the PA Smart 2020 and PA Smart 2021 combined notice for grant application, and that's going to be up to $14 million available to support new and existing programs, again, concentrating on serving underrepresented populations as well as non-traditional occupations. Also incorporating in the potential for incentive funds to be used, supportive service funds to be used, and we most likely will be adding a concentration for school districts to apply and potential school to work type programs. From the federal level, the National Apprenticeship Act of 2021 seeks to invest more than $3.5 billion over 5 years in expanding opportunities and access to registered apprenticeship. Also, President Biden and Vice President Harris have reaffirmed the administration's commitment to expanding registered apprenticeship. And they recently announced the reinstatement of the National Advisory Committee on Apprenticeships, as well as reversed the industry recognized apprenticeship programs as they were seen to kind of undermine the apprenticeship, the registered apprenticeship structure and have fewer quality standards. So I'm going to kind of tie it all up here. And I'm a story person, but I do want to talk numbers for a second because the Commonwealth and this team in particular should be extremely proud of the work that you're doing. And this group may not be aware of the reach that we really have across the Commonwealth. So currently right now we have 874 unduplicated program sponsors within the Commonwealth. We have 1,561 occupation-related apprenticeship programs. And we have 17,999 currently active apprentices. So we are very busy, but want to continue growing those numbers. So I did include in this presentation a few useful resources and videos to access. Please, everyone, check out the What's So Cool About Apprenticeship video. That's a video that we commissioned with the support of the Department of Labor and Industry. And I've also included some other videos highlighting youth apprenticeship, which in the Commonwealth, we commonly refer to as pre-apprenticeship. And if you need to get a hold of us, please do not hesitate to use our resource account. It's the best way to reach all of us or to get access to your regional representative if you don't have direct email addresses. And that is quite simply apprenticeship@pa.gov. I have also included the website addresses on this slide. These are not the updated websites yet, but go ahead and check it out, and then you'll be very, very pleasantly surprised when you do see the enhancements. So thank you all again for the work that you're doing and coming out of a very hard year.
Thank you so much, Tara. We've got a couple of questions that have popped up. The first one is, what do you mean by non-traditional?
Sure. James, did you highlight that in your presentation?
Yeah, so
okay.
When I mean non-traditional industries, talking about manufacturing, IT, healthcare, culinary, pretty much any industry that's not a building and construction trade is what we consider non-traditional industries. And then non-traditional apprentices, underserved apprentices, minority, women, re-entrants, individual disabilities, socioeconomically disadvantaged. So those are the definitions of what we mean when we say non-traditional.
Yeah. Thank you so much, James. Just to piggyback all of that, the building trades by and large have been associated with apprenticeship for a very long time. And that's because they do a great job, right? And they have really embraced the system, and it's worked well for them. So we want to take that structure that's working so well for the building trades and expand it out farther. And I will say that there's flexibility. There are certain elements you need to incorporate in an apprenticeship program, but then there is a certain level of flexibility that can happen. And I think that's the biggest misconception. And Apprenticeship PHL, as well as our office, is here to support you through that process and get innovative and look at what was done before and then farther enhance and make it right for you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Tara and Jim and James and Joe. Welcome, Joe. We're very excited to have you. And I'll say, Tara, you make state apprenticeship work exciting, which is a statement in and of itself. You're getting a lot of excitement around all the different projects that you all are doing. So thank you for all the work that you're putting in, and thank you for making time to talk to us all. I want to kind of, are there any other sort of wrap up pieces that we want to circle back on before we wrap up the conversation?
Thank you so much, Maria. I appreciate it. I appreciate being here. Howard, if you want to reach directly out to us, let's have an offline conversation just in light of time. And as I said, we're happy to provide an apprenticeship 101 or pre-apprenticeship 101 if there's ever a need for that from any of you individuals or for a larger group.
Beautiful. So then I will wrap it up with one last reminder that APHL is basically a network that's designed to support you in building your program. So we do the 101s as well, and we also do a lot of program design, technical assistance, figuring out the funding infrastructure, and all the other fun. So if you want to reach out to us and schedule a time, in the chat you've got a doodle poll. You can tell us what time works for you, and we'll get on a call and either go into the beauties of possibility or get really concrete about like what are the components, what does the design look like. That's what we're here for. Additionally, I want to say connect with us. We're constantly posting online. Thank you, Cassandra, for all the magic social media work that you do. She posts updated resources, updated funding opportunities, updated cool events, all sorts of stuff that's going on. And in our website, we're about to go into the next version of the website where we're going to provide some additional information, including our very exciting apprenticeship. Oh no, I'm going to kill it. Apprenticeship Navigator Registered Apprenticeship in partnership with Keystone Development Partnership. I'm excited to see all of you here. So with that, I want to say thank you so much to all of you for joining us. It's great to have so much buzz and energy around apprenticeship in the region. And we are here to serve, connect, and facilitate. Please reach out.